All right, episode 3, picking up. Same video as episodes 1 and 2. I did skip ahead. I skipped one question, just kind of curating, making sure there are things that I have stuff to say about, or, that kind of I can relate to and feel like I have something I can share from personal experience from. So let's jump in, and we're going to start right away with a new question that was sent in for Bashar, and we'll go from there.
Okay. And this person wants to know, how can I maintain a steady flow of income without repeatedly finding myself struggling to pay rent after indulging in purchases that excite me?
Well, you have to pay attention as to whether indulging in those purchases is actually representative of excitement or anxiety. So you have to have more deep and honest self investigation to be able to tell the difference between anxiety and excitement. Because if you feel that you are, as you say, strapping yourself in some way, shape, or form by spending more than you have, then that may be an indication not so much of the belief that you will attract what you need, but the idea that there is a sense of lack within you. So you have to pay attention to why you are doing what you are doing, for what reasons are you spending the money that you're spending. At the same time, again, please do
I'll let it play a little bit more.
remember that we have discussed that there are different forms of abundance.
Okay, he's going to get into abundance. So I just want to address the uh, anxiety versus excitement thing with spending in particular. I had a long period of time where I was addicted to buying things, usually from Amazon. Um, and it was something I couldn't stop doing. Um, and over time, I think I always kind of knew it was. I felt like I always needed to know something was coming in the mail for me to be excited about life. And it was very clear to me that I was excited. I was definitely excited about the thing I purchased specifically. But once I'd receive it, right, and look at it or play with it for a couple minutes or a day or two, right, that excitement I was feeling while I was waiting for the thing to show up went away. And then I felt that I had to order something else. So I knew that was coming. And then I'm super excited for the thing, more excited than I need to be. And then I get it, right? And then the excitement drains. And then it's like, all right, I need the next thing. Um, and I think one of the last things Bashar just said is it something feel that you're. What did he say? Let me go back a couple seconds. I don't think he said emptiness, but let's see.
Why you are doing what you are doing, for what reasons are you spending the money that you're spending. At the same time, again, in those purchases is actually representative of excitement or anxiety. So you have to have more deep and honest self investigation to be able to tell the difference between anxiety and excitement.
I think he says
Because
something
if you
missing.
feel that you are, as you say, strapping yourself in some way, shape, or form by spending more than you have, then that may be an indication not so much of the belief that you will attract what you need, but the idea that there is a sense of lack within you.
A sense of lack. That's definitely what it was. It was a mix for me, and I guess I haven't reflected too much on this looking backwards because that drive to spend has gone away almost completely. I still have it a bit with DoorDash, with ordering food, but that's more has to do with me being bored by the food that's in my house. But ordering on Amazon was I've always been a very exploratory of hobbies and had an interest in a lot of hobbies, right? If I watched something on YouTube or watched anybody doing anything, right? Somebody repairing watches, wristwatches, somebody building little miniature sets for movies, anybody that kind of hobby or a skill, an instrument. When I would watch that, take in that content, my brain was always going to, uh, can I do this? Do I want to do this? What would I have to buy to be able to start doing this? If it was something I'm interested in, my mind would jump right away to, okay, I have to now do this and experience this, which means now I have to buy a trumpet and all the accessories you need for cleaning and maintaining a trumpet, and then I need like books of sheet music, and then I need instructional things, right? And then this is very common with ADHD minds. Um, right? And then I'd be excited for all these things to show up, staggered. I'd get the sheet music one day, and then the trumpet would come, and I'd spend, you're in hundreds and hundreds of dollars you probably spent, and then you play a couple notes, and, by the next day or two, you're like, all right, I learned. For me, it was very much once I'd had a little bit of the experience, my excitement would go away because then it would be replaced with, okay, now to be really good at this, it would be practice and practice and practice. And I wasn't excited about learning how to play trumpet. I was excited about, I guess, the experience of having a trumpet and blowing into it and seeing what notes I could get out of it. And then when you're actually hit with the reality of learning it, right? So I really had to figure out, why am I buying this stuff? And really it came down to, I need to stop buying this stuff because I don't have any money. So uh, I've definitely felt this, but it felt like an emptiness, right? It felt like a mix between my true self is exploring various hobbies and tasks and experiences, and I love them and I want to tangibly feel them, right? So that was a positive side to it, and it was definitely following excitement, or it felt that way at the time. But behind that was, I think, a very much a lingering feeling of, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing on this planet, in this life, in this reality. And one of these things I try is going to give me the answer, right? So constantly looking for, okay, maybe if I get a trumpet, or I start on woodworking and I buy all the woodworking tools, I'm going to realize, okay, this is the thing that sticks. I was waiting for something to stick. And then I'd be like, all right, I'm a woodworker now. I have a shop on Etsy. I'm selling things, handmade, handcrafted furniture. And like, I was going to find one thing I could latch onto, and that would take me into the life that I wanted, which was kind of working for myself, building and creating things for other people, um, and being able to enjoy constantly creating something new all the time as my career, right? So I think I was exploring, saying maybe this will get me that lifestyle. Maybe this will lead to that lifestyle. Constantly getting stuff, being disappointed, right? Because right away I'd feel like, okay, uh, I thought when I was watching someone play trumpet on YouTube, I really believed I could be somebody who practices, learns quickly, and is now a trumpet player. And I could start a band. And now I'm thinking about recording albums, right? I'd go to the maximum, and then I'd get it, and the reality would be, I don't want to practice trumpet. I just want to know how to play trumpet. And then over time, it was like, maybe I just enjoy other people watching other people play trumpet. I don't necessarily have to do it myself. But I learned a lot of stuff from that. But it's very clear looking back that it was searching for something that would satisfy me in the long term, and it constantly being a trail of short-term satisfaction stuff. Um, and that was, at the time, you don't think of it as anxiety. You think of it as, I'm just excited all the time to get new stuff. This is what he means. You really have to pay attention to the reasons and explore a little bit, because if it's something you're not in control of, right? It's like, I'm excited, but there's a bit of an addiction there, right? It's like, I'm excited for the new thing, but if there's no new thing coming towards me, being delivered, no new thing that I've ordered, it's like a slump of, what I experienced as depression, where it's like, what am I doing now? What am I looking forward to? Right? So all of it came down to, I was bored by life and felt like there was nothing to look forward to if I wasn't receiving a new thing to try or explore, even if it was for a moment. So really, there is a form of, strong anxiety underlying what I only perceived as excitement.
So you have to pay attention to why you are doing what you are doing. For what reasons are you spending the money that you're spending? At the same time, again, please do remember that we have discussed that there are different forms of abundance, and allowing all of them to be equal, not just having money stand out as to be the only way things can be done, but all of them being equal to one another. then you can relax the idea of what it is you may think you need at any given moment. That will then allow that to synchronistically come into your life in whatever form the abundance needs to be there to allow you to continue to act on your passion. But again, fundamentally, you have to really examine whether you are purchasing the things you are purchasing because they are truly representative of your excitement, that you truly need them in your life, or whether you are just making an assumption based on anxiety and disguising it as excitement so you don't have to pay attention to the real reason you may be purchasing those things. So just be honest with yourself in your self-examination.
Yeah, and that's tough. I mean, it's tough um, to self-examine sometimes because, like me, looking back on all the stuff I was just talking about, the purchases, when I was doing it, and it still comes up now, it primarily and only feels or felt like excitement. But it was uncontrollable excitement. So maybe that's a sign that it's a form of anxiety because it wasn't. Bashar often talks about living in this kind of trinity world where you have the extremes, like a negative experience, uh, and or a positive perception, negative perception or positive perception, and the ideal life is to live in the center and maybe leaning a little bit towards the positive side, but being able to, see something uh, negative, feel a negative perception of it, and then decide you don't like that thing and go back to the middle where you don't invalidate the negative thing or say the thing is negative, or have it affect your mood and make you angry or stressed, right? It's just, oh, I see that thing as not negative, but something I don't prefer. And then I could center myself back on the middle and not let that thing affect me or eliminate it as part of my life. And then always try to be lean towards the positive thing, but not getting so positive that I'm now addicted to this thing, or I think there's nothing else worth experiencing. So I got to stay attached to this positive thing because I'm afraid that I might, if I let go, I might run into a negative thing, right? So I was experiencing a lot of excitement, but to stop and assess is difficult. Yeah, and maybe the giveaway, looking back in hindsight, was that if I wasn't, yeah, I was chasing. It was clear I was chasing something, and if I wasn't constantly chasing, and chasing is just a form of running, right? So I'm running towards these little fleeting, exciting moments of excitement, which really just means I'm afraid of, or I don't know what to do with myself if I'm in that center point between things I don't prefer, things I do prefer, things that excite me, things that devastate me or make me feel depressed, right? I was so afraid of the depressed stuff, perhaps, that I was trying to latch fully onto the excitement stuff at all times and not let myself recenter to the middle and really, from that perspective, be able to pick and choose what I really think I can realistically pursue and what I really want to be part of my life, and isn't just, I also have a fear of water, deep water. I can't swim very well. Um, so I just pictured now, right? Me constantly ordering things from Amazon was like holding onto the side of the pool, in the deep end, and just being so afraid to let go and try to tread water and swim because I'm so afraid of drowning. I won't even let myself get to the point of treading water and just swimming normally and calmly and efficiently. It was like one or the other for me, right? It's like hold on to the edge, which basically means I'm not even swimming. I'm not even participating in the pool because I'm so afraid of sinking. I guess that analogy is getting a little weird, but it's the way I'm perceiving it is, like I said, I was trying to constantly fill my life with what I considered to be excitement at all times, which in that form was waiting for a new thing to arrive that I could look at and play with. Um, because I was so afraid of being bored or and this goes back to what I spoke about in episode 2, the last episode, a bit of not having the perspective that I've gained more recently from Bashar of recognizing excitement on a smaller scale in your day-to-day life, right? Like it's exciting to me that I get to go downstairs. It's the end of the day now. I just wrapped up work. I get to switch into my more comfortable pants and t-shirt and, get on the couch, have some dinner. Right? That's a very exciting, you need to acknowledge the excitement and the joy of those parts of life rather than narrowing your view of excitement to these big new things, right? I can only feel excited if a brand new opportunity's coming. I'm receiving a trumpet. I'm going to learn how to trumpet. I might become the best trumpet player in the world. It's like I needed all these things in my head that my life was maybe moving towards something bigger or something I had more control of or seemed more exciting in the long term. And that's only because I wasn't recognizing the day-to-day joys, right? So yeah, there's a lot in there, and this is what it means. Reflection is tough. It's interesting because to me, a lot of this stuff, I've been to therapy here and there, different kind of therapists, and listening to Bashar and following his formula. When I compare that to going to therapy, it feels like the same thing. It feels like his formula. I feel like Bashar's formula gives me the ability to act as my own therapist, and maybe that's not true for everybody. But a therapist very much is helping you self-reflect and is basically asking questions, right? They've been trained to ask. When you say this kind of thing, they're paying attention to patterns and behaviors that you're not usually conscious of because you're living from within and they're seeing from an outside perspective. So they can say, last week you said this, this, and this, and then this week you said this, this, and this. Those seem similar. Maybe you're running to the same, maybe there's a core kind of hitch or something you're running into that's affecting both those areas of your life, right? They make those connections from a different perspective. And Bashar's formula is essentially doing that on your own, right? It's kind of pay attention, be aware of these patterns, and then once you recognize the patterns, start breaking them down, analyze them a bit, and it gives you a very simple way to do it so you don't overanalyze and create more anxiety, as you get better and better at it. So I don't know, that's just a comparison I've felt a lot when listening to Bashar and practicing the formula is just like, oh, this feels like I feel like I'm able to do in my own head what I used to need a therapist uh, to do for me. Um, so yeah, let's keep going.
Okay, and this next question is, can you please give some examples of what limiting beliefs a person may hold that is causing them to hold excess fat on their body?
Well, this goes back, now, again, not the only reason, but this goes back to one of the typical euphemisms that your language provides in the fact that you may be, quote unquote, waiting around to do what it is you need to be doing, that you're not flowing your energy outward in giving gifts, in sharing things, in doing what you're passionate about, in being of service to humanity. And therefore the energy builds up because it's not got anywhere to go. And it turns into matter because energy, matter are different sides of the same thing. So when you are waiting to do what it is you need to be doing to express yourself fully, to follow your passion fully, then that can turn into mass and add weight to your system physically.
I love stuff like that. Bashar will always he says that he learned puns from us, from listening to us. But he'll utilize puns a lot or wordplay. Um, and it's interesting because it's almost acts as a memory trick, at least for me, right? Like I've heard him say this before, that you accumulate weight because you may be waiting to do something rather than taking action, right? So it's using the similarities between the words to create a connection that you can then use to help remember or assess things more properly. I've definitely felt this as well during my kind of depressive state, and there was a time when I was on medication, anti-anxiety medication, depression, anti-depression medication, the stuff that many people are on, um, and that I was holding a lot of weight, gaining weight, and holding weight. Right, so I had no control over my weight. It felt like when I was on the meds, I couldn't reduce it. It kind of stagnated, and if anything, was kind of going up, up, up. And then, I got to a point where after listening to Bashar for a bit, I got off a large variety of medications I was on. I started to feel like I don't think I need these anymore, or I would like to uh, see what if my perspectives changed, when I'm not on them. So, let me try life without them, see how that goes. And I noticed after doing that, my weight dropped, and I feel like I have more control over it, right? And that's interesting because the way my brain works, and you get into then questioning things, right? Because you're like, well, you could look at it as, I took control back of my body and my weight, and the act of getting off the meds and pursuing a life without meds, because I'm understanding from Bashar's teaching that I may not need those permission slips anymore, right? That could be what freed me from the weight, right? But then you could also say, or I just lost weight because I got off the meds, and the meds are what created the weight and was holding the weight, right? But then you look at it further and you go, there's almost no difference between the two, because it was the teachings of Bashar and the new perspective and all that encouraged me and made me believe I don't need the meds anymore, right? And the meds were the thing giving me the weight. So there are a couple options, right? All the perspectives really lead back to it being my new perspective and me no longer needing the permission slip. It's either that listening to Bashar and evaluating myself and getting rid of old beliefs helped me get rid of the weight because I'm no longer holding on to that burden, or me listening to Bashar and getting new perspectives and getting rid of old beliefs allowed me to decide that maybe I don't need my medication anymore. And then quitting the medication got rid of the weight, right? So when Bashar says a lot to get creative and form an awareness of synchronicities and how they're working to your benefit all the time. And I've always had the opposite mind. It's like I could talk myself out of anything. Like, okay, that's not really what's happening because, very scientific method kind of brain where it's like, I can't prove that it was me just believing in myself because I got off the meds and that's what made me drop the weight. Right. But I only got off the meds because of the belief, the new beliefs. So, it's like all roots kind of come back to that anyway. So, I don't know, kind of rambling now. Hopefully something helpful was in there. Let's keep going a bit longer.
And how might that apply to people as they age? Not that all people gain weight, but seems like a large percentage of the population gains weight as they get older.
I don't know what he's going to say here, but this is also, I realized this is other people's beliefs. This is a huge thing in our society. I've noticed, and I've noticed that I've done and have since stopped doing is, I'll have friends. I'm 35, and I have a brother-in-law or friends that are, approaching their 30s, and I used to always joke, oh, wait till you get 30, your back's gonna start hurting. It's all gonna go. You're gonna be exhausted. You're gonna want to go to bed at 8 o'clock. Just wait until you turn 30, right? And it's like I was just giving them, I was I was giving them an expectation uh, that their physical health and energy levels are going to go downhill when you turn 30, right? Because partially that was an experience I had, and that's an experience a lot of us have, but we all keep telling each other that. Like, your back's going to go out. You can't jump anymore. And it's like, I understand this is where it gets rough because you're like, well, there's truth to that. But is it the truth because it's the culture we created in a sense? That's like, we all tell ourselves as you get older, you lose energy, you get tired, you don't want to do stuff anymore. We kind of reiterate these things to ourselves in our community in subtle ways and in more blatant ways all the time. It's to the point, right, where that's just how, that's what leads to the response of going, well, yeah, we don't have control over that. That's just how the way things work. Well, is it possible that's the way things are currently working because we've all agreed on the same belief that that's the way it needs to go? We're all going to get old. We're all going to get tired. Our eyes are going to start getting bad. right? It's like we put this in books, textbooks, and things. Macular degeneration. When you hit this age, you're going to start losing your eyesight, and then we all start doing it. So I understand these are questions I kind of ponder as I'm listening to Bashar. I'm constantly weighing, just for the sake of me exploring all perspectives so that I can land on the ones I prefer and that work for me. Um, I always kind of come in this side thing that's like it could be either or. We're manifesting basically this thing in our culture that makes us age, or is that just the way it is? And Bashar's offering a different way to look at it, or maybe to feel like you're taking more control of it. I'm tending to lean less. I spent a lot of time with the analytical mind trying to disprove everything until get it down till it's concrete and tangible, or else I don't believe it. I spent a lot of time in that world, and I'll say for me personally, it's not the best way to live. It's just not. It's it's even better to pretend you believe in something that you can't tangibly hold on to. It's just a path to. There's a lot of good in it, that's but I'm trying to see it more as a skill to assess life and see what works for me. You know I'm going to take the perspective that results in the life that in which I create the highest joy for myself at all times and for the people around me, right? Whatever belief I want to take or permission slip and hold on to, as long as that works for me, I don't need to prove that it works for other people too, or there's a case study done and this also works for 100,000 other people. Okay, now I believe it can work for me. I'm moving away from that because of Bashar's teaching, and I'm just learning to not latch onto, not preach to other people about, not try and prove, but take this thing. Hey, maybe looking at like the moon cycles, and learning more about those and astrology and things. I can learn something from that, or it can give me something I can a baseline, a pattern that I can pay attention to help me with assessing myself and getting rid of other beliefs. So I'll just use that as long as it's beneficial to me, as long as I'm interested. And then I don't have to, what I might do in the past is, do a deep dive trying to figure out if it's possible that astrology or tarot cards, actually hold power and have scientifically been proven to do a thing. It doesn't matter. Is it useful for me? Um, and then even having the freedom to say it works for me, so I don't even feel like I need to try to convince anybody else that it works. Right? That was freeing for me because I've always felt like if I stumbled on a new belief or found thing or discovered a new perspective, I was just trying to get other people to understand it the way I did. Right? And I think that may have led to me needing to do the deep dive and find like tangible evidence, right, so that I could use that evidence to convince myself and other people that this thing I'm doing is real, right? But if you just choose to utilize a belief or a perspective for your personal growth, and then understand that you don't have to worry about ad blocked. You don't have to worry about, do I have enough evidence if somebody asks me why I believe this so that I can prove to them that it's true, so I'm not embarrassed, or so that they might, it's really freeing to just use what works and don't use what doesn't. And then the analytical mind I'm trying to use as a skill set, right? So I can say, this seems like a case where I do want to do a deep dive because I feel like I'll learn and that'll move me forward and help me expand by finding, just studying this further. Um, but I'm moving away from the place where if I don't find concrete evidence, I'm going to dismiss that thing as invalid.
Well, again, many, many individuals in your population have been waiting for a long time to do what it is they are truly passionate about doing, to be their true selves. And the longer they wait, the more weight they may gain, because the idea of aging starts to imply in their belief system that it now may be too late for them to actually take those actions, and therefore that adds more weighting and therefore that adds more weight.
Wow. We'll stop there. But that's interesting, even, regardless of weight, but of, weakness and strength in the body, of energy levels, of motivation, of passion. Um, yeah, it's sort of a cumulative effect, right? It's like maybe, because we are not on a large scale yet practicing this formula of finding the greatest joy at every moment. It's new and not a lot of people have heard it yet or are practicing it. We have this cumulative effect that it's just like maybe by the time we're, in our 30s, 40s, 50s, people start feeling like, okay, I've gained a little more wisdom about life and what I do prefer and don't prefer. But now I'm 50, 60, 70, and I'm too tired, or I don't have the energy, or I don't have the time left to utilize this new wisdom and these new perspectives. So I'm just going to kind of do nothing, right? It's I'm too old for that kind of stuff, right? And then you feel like if I had known this 30 years ago or had this perspective, maybe I would have done something about it, right? But those again are some of the core beliefs that the formula would help us remove, right? As a 60-year-old or something, if you're telling yourself, I'm too old to start doing anything about this now, I don't have the energy, I'm not a kid anymore, right? Those are the beliefs that you don't need to hold on to, and they're not true unless you choose to carry them around and believe them. That will be the result of your physical reality. But there are plenty of people that live. I just watched a video of an interview with Dick Van Dyke, who's, or at least at the time the video came out, he's about to turn 100 years old. You wouldn't know it by his voice and his awareness, and it's like he just walked off the set of, Mary Poppins or something. It's the same energy, same awareness, same excitement, same like childlike wonder. Um, so it's definitely possible, and I've seen a lot of people like that. But those are the people that generally aren't going through life telling themselves and everybody else that they're too old and too tired to do anything useful. Um, so, very mind over matter stuff. And what's great is, again, just a reminder, all this, we're talking about a lot of stuff and intricacies and all these questions coming to Bashar. They're all clarification on expanding on the formula, but the formula itself is very simple, right? It's follow your highest joy, no matter how small it is. Look at all the options at any given moment. Do I want to keep recording this video or I want to leave? I'm getting to the point where I want to be done recording this. So I'm gonna stop in a second. But following that joy, and then when you hit a stumbling block, I want to go in that direction. That seems exciting, but something's telling me I can't do that, or I shouldn't do it, or it's too scary. I'm too afraid to do it. Then you analyze, okay, what beliefs do I hold that are keeping me from doing that and following my joy? Is it, once you've determined it's something I do really want to do, it's a true representation of my joy and excitement, but something's in the way, then you ask what's in the way, and you start analyzing from there. And you say, okay, I believe if I do that, this bad thing will happen. Or I simply believe that staying where I currently am in the state I currently am is the safest place to be for me. So, that would be maybe something like a big core belief. If you have a core belief buried in there that just says, don't do anything, stay where you are, don't meet any new people, don't move, don't get a new job, everything else is scary, the safest bet is for me to just remain where I am and do nothing extra. You might have that belief that's underlying all these other little beliefs of I'm afraid of what people might think. I don't want to be embarrassed, right? So you just start the hunt for these beliefs, and then you're really looking for those core beliefs. And then when you say, that's an absurd belief to have, that I should just stay still and do nothing, because my biggest problem in life is that I feel like I'm not progressing, right? Well, of course, it's obvious now what the reason is, because I've found this core belief within me that says, that's literally a rule I created for myself that says, don't move forward. It's too scary. Then you can eliminate that belief just by recognizing it and saying, okay, well, scrap that. The awareness of it itself is enough to get rid of it. And then once you're aware of it, you can consider it gone. And then the only way it would come back is if you run into something and you consciously decide, never mind, I'm going back to the fear thing, because that's too scary. And then you start, again, exploring for maybe some smaller beliefs that are creating that core belief.